In this video, I'm going to show you how to calculate the winner of an election using the pairwise comparison or Copeland's method. So again, we'll start with an example preference schedule because again, the pairwise comparison method is a type of ranked choice voting method. And this one is based on the idea that a candidate should win if they win the most one-on-one matchups. So for every one-on-one matchup between a pair of candidates, each candidate will get 1 point for each one-on-one matchup that they win and half a point for each one-on-one matchup that they tie. So 1 point would correspond to winning the matchup, and then half a point would correspond to a tie in the matchup. So to start, we need to write down every possible pairing of candidates. So we could have A versus B. We could have A versus C or A versus D. So notice that I'm writing these down in a systematic, organized way, and that will help me make sure that I don't miss any possible matchups. So that's all the matchups where A is one of the candidates. So now, being systematic about it, I'll write down all of the matchups where B is one of the candidates in the matchup. I don't need to write down B versus A because that's already right there. We already have an A versus B matchup, so I don't need to also write down B versus A. That would be redundant. So the next possible matchup would be B versus C and B versus D. And that would be all of the matchups where B is one of the candidates. So then lastly, moving on to C, we would have C versus D. And I think that's it. So again, because I wrote those down in an organized way, that helps me feel confident that I wrote down all possible matchups. So let's go first to A versus B. So first we'll see how many voters ranked A above B. So if I look at the preference schedule here, we have these 4 voters ranked A above B. And these 6 voters also ranked A above B. So those 6 voters ranked A first and B last. So anytime that A appears somewhere above B in the table is what we're looking for. And then let's see if that occurs anywhere else. Yep, right there. So those 5 voters also ranked A above B, and I think that's it. So that would be 4 plus 6 plus 5 is 15 voters ranked A above B. So in comparison, the rest of the voters ranked B above A. So we have 9 plus 3 plus 7 voters ranked B above A. 9 plus 3 plus 7 is 19. So to determine who wins the matchup, we see who had more voters that ranked one above the other. So here, that means that B is the winner of the A versus B matchup. So if we make a little table here to summarize all of the points that the candidates get, that would be 1 point for candidate B. So next we'll move on to the A versus C matchup. So again, first we'll look for columns where A is above C. Looks like that column and that one and the last one. That tells us that 4 plus 6 plus 7 voters ranked A above C, and the rest of the voters ranked C above A. So C appears before A for 9 plus 3 plus 5 voters. That would also be 17. So that matchup is a tie, which means that both A and C would get half a point for that matchup. Next, for A versus D, let's look for where A is above D in the preference schedule. So the first 2 columns, and then the 3 voters there. So that would be 13 voters ranked A above D, and the rest of them ranked D above A. So the rest of them would be 9 plus 5 plus 7, which would be 21. So that matchup, 13 versus 21, D wins that matchup. So D would get a point for the A versus D matchup. All right, next B versus C. Let's see where B is above C in the preference schedule. That column, and the last column. Okay, so we have 4 plus 9 plus 7 is 20 voters who ranked B above C, and the rest of them ranked C above B. So that would be 6 plus 3 plus 5 is 14. So B wins that matchup, and so we'll give B another point. Next, B versus D, we want to look for the columns where B is above D. That looks like it. Okay, so 4 plus 9 plus 3 is 16 voters ranked B above D, and the rest ranked D above B. So 6 plus 5 plus 7 is 18 voters ranked D above B. So D wins that matchup. D gets another point. And then lastly, C versus D. Let's look for the matchups where C is above D. So right there, right there, right there, and right there. We have 4 columns this time where C is above D. So that tells us that 4 plus 6 plus 3 plus 5, which is 18 voters, ranked C above D, and the rest of them, 9 plus 7 is 16, ranked D above C. And so C wins that matchup. C gets another point. All right, so then we can just add up to determine the total number of points each candidate got. A got half a point, B got 2 points, C got 1.5 points, and D got 2 points. So B and D tied for the most points, and that means for this election, the result would be a tie between B and D.